Welcome to the Global Energy Leaders Podcast, powered by R Squared Global.
Welcome to another edition of the Global Energy Leaders Podcast. As always, I'm your host, Ryan Ray. So good to have you. And today, we're getting into biomass with a Forbes 30 Under 30 member, Charles Cai. Charles, how's it going today?
It's good.
So you are now, I guess, the second 30 Under 30 Energy List member from Forbes that we've had on. Kind of walk us through that process and, how did you get nominated and what was the process like to go through?
Sure, Ryan. The Forbes list is usually something that is nominated. And so I think one of my colleagues or a friend had nominated me to be selected for this year. And throughout the late December and early January, I received several emails from the Forbes magazine asking questions and asking for more details regarding my company as well as my position at the university. And sort of as the questions got a little bit more and more in depth, I realized that maybe they were selecting the finalists. And around early January was when I received notice that I had been selected. And it was a great honor.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, congratulations on that. And so let's talk about biomass. Now, when we say biomass, that's kind of like anything in energy, a broad term. So where do you focus at inside of the biomass spectrum?
Well, I'd always thought that biomass would have been the ultimate solution at the large scale to sort of replace or serve as an alternative for renewable energy in the long term. And this is because our petroleum usage is quite vast. And so, if we were to just use solar power or just use batteries, there wouldn't be enough resources for us to replace or to replenish all our energy needs. And this is why biomass, which specifically in my field is called Lignocellulosic Biomass, is essentially all plant matter that isn't for eating or for use as construction. And so this is basically all the leftover residues, or essentially you can say plant waste, that we are targeting to convert into liquid fuels and electricity.
Okay, when you say waste there, where are you collecting this from? Just kind of so we get a better understanding of where you're getting this waste from.
So principally, we would like to receive these waste products from agricultural farming operations. And so what we've been studying thus far would be like corn stover, wheat straw, sugarcane bagasse down in South America, in Central America, as well as forestry waste. So it would be from hard and soft woods such as poplar, maple wood, and pine.
Okay, so if I'm tracking you right, then one of the complaints or fears with biomass is that you have to constantly plant and plant and plant. And if I hear what you're saying is you're saying, well, people are already planting, and we're just going to take the excess and then use that for biomass. Is that kind of how it's working here, whether it be for forestry or crops or whatever?
Yeah, that's exactly how it works. In fact, what will be alarming for most people is that the United States already every year produces almost 1 billion tons of this stuff. So, it's pretty wasteful because a lot of this stuff ends up being burned in the open air, as we don't really have a solution to take care of it at the large scale. And so instead of burning it directly into the open air and causing pollution that way, we can convert up to 1 billion tons of this material into liquid fuels that we can utilize in our vehicles and power our infrastructure.
Okay, great. Well, that's kind of a good way to set the table. So let's kind of broaden the spectrum here. You've mentioned the U.S. and you mentioned, I think, South America a second ago. Where all are you guys trying to bring this? Because farming and agriculture and forestry is big around the globe. So where are you focusing your efforts at right now?
So I lead 2 efforts, one academic and one private or commercial. And that's because I currently hold an appointment as an assistant research engineer at University of California, Riverside, as well as the chief technology officer of MG Fuels. And so for the academic side, we're looking at sort of serving the needs of rural nations at first, or rural communities that do not have power. And in fact, even today, about 18% of the world's population is without electricity. And in these energy scarce communities, they really don't have an ability to help themselves because they're not connected to the grid. They don't have modern infrastructure or delivery or freight. And so a lot of what they do is very, very agricultural. And some of them still operate in a barter system. And so what we're trying to do is we're trying to get a one-time sort of project going where we can establish a biomass-based power plant within these communities, so that they can sort of fuel their own progress. And so then, with power comes, the ability to have industry, more advanced farming, food refrigeration, and as well as eventually building their own hospitals and their own schools. And eventually, they will become self-sustainable communities instead of ones that rely on Western nations' aid. And on the company side, what we're trying to do is we're trying to work with clients that are that produce a substantial amount of biomass waste. So these are typically pulp and paper industry, or any agricultural industry, or any food processing companies and clients that would like to basically have their large waste streams, their plant waste streams, converted into renewable energy. And in a way, this will help with their waste situation, and also will provide their facilities with electric power.
Okay, wow, you covered a lot there. So let's kind of circle back around to maybe more on your research side with your academic aspirations that you have going on. Okay, one of the things that I've seen in Africa is a lot of talk of microgrids and trying to figure out how the emerging energy markets, that these people who don't have power or have very unreliable power, and as they get into the grid, what's going to happen there. Is biomass a solution that is, exclusive, or is it a complementary solution where we're saying, okay, we want biomass to partner with solar and to wind and to maybe a little oil and gas and kind of have a mix? Or do you think this is a solution that can be all encompassing for large portions of these populations that aren't on the grid that you're trying to bring onto the grid?
So I think it's pretty inclusive to other technologies, and the reason for that is because once you actually have a power plant that's based on biomass, and you have local people foraging or removing sort of waste plant material and using it to generate power, that they can then establish what you said, like a microgrid, and then maybe have supporting solar arrays or any type of other types of renewable energy and geothermal as well. However, it's interesting because a lot of these sort of more advanced technologies, such as like solar panels, batteries, and geothermal, they usually will be manufactured and sort of delivered into the communities. Thus, the community has to have some level of wealth for them to be able to afford purchasing these equipment from outside. Whereas if we do a biomass power plant, essentially all the wealth and all the labor and all the resources are within the community. So it keeps these communities afloat financially.
Yeah, and you kind of touched on what I was going to go to next. Is when you're building these biomass plants, I'm guessing that you're going in and saying, okay, this area produces X amount of waste, and so you're not depending on some kind of international trade agreement where country A is buying from country B. It's localized for these emerging markets. Is that what I'm hearing?
Absolutely. The idea is for these smaller communities that are sort of farther away from modern civilization to be able to sustain themselves or support themselves in this way.
Okay, great. Well, let's get back to maybe first world thinking now, just to kind of understand what's going on there. You said pulp and paper and a lot of stuff like that is where you're getting in industry in the U.S. How are they receiving this? Because it would seem to me that it would be a no-brainer for them to partner up with people like yourself. Are they receptive to this idea, or is there still kind of a little bit of unease, or what's been the general feel so far?
Absolutely. I think the industry for a long time, especially the paper industry and a lot of the agricultural industries, have been looking for something like this for a long time. A lot of wood waste and a lot of food waste is generated each year. The problem for them was always cost. It's always been too expensive to convert their waste products into renewable energy, and so that they found it cheaper to just burn into the atmosphere. And so only now do we have a technology such as the one that I helped develop at UCR that is potentially cheap enough for them to actually leverage their sort of finances and their corporate goals into incorporating this type of process and this type of technology for them.
Okay, so if we have a listener who is maybe not fully in energy, but they're in pulp and paper or forestry or something like that, what would you recommend for them to do? How would they contact yourself or someone like that just to say, okay, hey, I'm interested in this. This is the problem that we have and we'd like to solve. What are the steps they should take?
So if they would like to contact us, we have a website actually. It's www.mgfuels.com, and MG stands for more green. And that's our company name, in which they can find our contact information as well as more information about our technology and the feedstocks that we leverage to convert into liquid fuels and electricity.
Okay, now I want to talk about kind of a practical thought process here for a listener who may be a little bit younger and they're hearing about this and they go, "This is interesting." They're wanting to get into the career in the biomass industry. What kind of a general advice would you give them to say, "Okay, this is where I would start. This is how I think about entering the industry"? Would you say maybe an apprenticeship or go straight to the collegiate level? What are kind of the steps that someone should take here?
For a student, I would recommend, depending on their age, if they let's start at high school, that they would be interested in the STEM, the science, technology type of fields, and so they would apply for a major in school, in college that is science related. And specifically for me, I'm an engineer, and so I received my undergraduate in biochemical engineering. And I chose biochemical engineering because it encompasses the biological and chemical aspects of science. And the engineering part means that I'm able to build out systems and actually apply the things that I learn in school into equipment and technologies and processes that can be realized. And so I guess the advice would be, if you're interested in the core science, to go with a science background. But if you're interested in actually doing building machines and building processes and technologies, then you would go with an engineering background.
Okay, great. Well, this has been very helpful just to kind of set the table for understanding where biomass is. I was doing some research, before we got on, and there is some, good indicators that biomass is getting traction. And I know there's a lot of debate depending on which side of the fence you are, so to speak. And one of the problems that I've always heard about biomass, and I'm not in the biomass industry, so I don't know, but one of the problems I've heard is just people are saying, well, you got to plant and you run out of spots to plant and you ruin the fields. But it sounds like you guys have really tapped into what I think is just a great idea here to go and to say, okay, there's already a way to use this, and it's waste, and it's kind of a self-sufficient thing. So kudos to you guys. Also, again, congratulations on the Forbes 30 under 30. That's a huge accomplishment. So congratulations there. Is there anything else that you'd like to plug or promote before we let you go today?
Yeah, actually, the process that we have invented and were developed over the past several years is actually called CELF, and so it's sort of an interesting pun to self-sustaining, but it's spelled CELF. And so this process is actually one of a kind. It's one of the latest and most advanced sort of methods to convert all types of sort of plant matter into liquid fuels or electric energy. And what's unique about this in comparison to all the older sort of traditional or conventional technologies, such as gasification or pyrolysis or other forms of sort of boiling of boilers and stuff like that, is that this is incredibly high yield and it's very low temperature and it's single step, which means that so the energy that comes into the system is less than what you pull out, which is a huge argument for a lot of these processes. And the other thing is that we're able to accomplish this in one single step. So the scale could be very flexible. We can build systems at 10 megawatts upwards to 1,000 megawatt range. And so if there's any people who are interested in sort of evaluating or learning more about this, they can visit our website or contact me directly. And thank you for this opportunity, Ryan.
And just so the audience is clear, that was the mgfuels.com where they could find about the CELF, correct?
Yes, that's
okay.
MG Fuels.
Yeah, and we will link to mgfuels.com in the show notes so you guys can go there and check it out and check out more about Charles. We'll link to his bio in the Forbes 30 under 30 as well. Charles, this was great. It was very informative. As someone who's not really done much in biomass, it was kind of helpful for me to kind of get in here and learn. I know the audience learned a lot as well. So thank you for your time. We will link to all this stuff in the show notes, and we hope to talk to you again soon.
All right. Thank you. I appreciate this opportunity.
Thanks again to Charles for coming on. Really enjoyed the conversation about biomass, something that I'm not really familiar with, but learning about and find very, very exciting. Reminder, if you've signed up for our email list at globalenergymedia.com, then you're entered to win our current giveaway. If not, then go to globalenergymedia.com and click the opt-in as it pops up on your screen. Give us your name and email, and you will be entered to win our giveaway. Thank you so much for tuning in, and until next time, keep climbing.
Thanks for listening to the Global Energy Leaders Podcast, powered by R Squared Global.